Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari
Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Kunja Bihari
Jayo Gopi Jana Vallabha Jayo Girivardhari
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yatira Banachari Yamunatira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari
Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Radhika Raman Radha Damodar Giriju Ki Jai Ho Om Agyanna Timarandasya Jananjana Salakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Namo Mahavandanaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gaura Tavashe Namaha Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. First of all, I'd like to offer my heartfelt Puspanjali to the lotus feet of my Harinam Diksha Guru, our Srila Prabhupada, who's my life and soul. Second of all, to my Bhajan Shiksha Guru, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, our Gurudev. Then to Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj and to Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Goswami Maharaj and to our entire Guru Parampara. coming from Rupa and Sanatan Goswami, Swarup Damodar, Panchatattva, all the way up to Lord Brahma, the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. And we have been speaking about Siksastakam, which is spoken by Gaurahari himself. And we're still on text number 2. Every one of these verses that Mahaprabhu spoke holds so many secrets and so many deep teachings. We could spend days and days on each one of the slokas, actually. So today we're going deeper into sloka 2. Nam Namakari Bauda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatarpita Niyamita Smarne Nakalaha Itadasi Tavakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaiva Midrisami Hajanina Nuragaha. And each one of the verses also corresponds to the 8 parts of the day in Mahaprabhu's Astakalya Leela and Radha and Krishna's Astakalya Leela. Actually, Mahaprabhu in Swetadweep also has Astakalya Leela. So each part, I forgot to mention that when we were talking about verse number 1. But yes, Mahaprabhu also in Swetadweep has Astakalya Leela. So I thought I'd just go back a little bit and mention that a little bit. In Swetadweep for Nishant Leela, verse number 1, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, Mahaprabhu is usually at Srivasangam, sometimes in Chandrasekhar Bhavan, and he's waking up. The birds are waking him up, just like Radha and Krishna are woken up in the morning. And he immediately, when he wakes up, because who is Mahaprabhu? Mahaprabhu's Krishna in the mood of Srimati Radhika, tasting her moods and experiencing all the glories of her moods and who she is, the happiness she feels. This is Mahaprabhu. So when he wakes up, what happens? He immediately remembers Krishna, Hari, situated very close to Srimati Radhika, in their Nikunja in the morning. He immediately remembers his own pastimes, but in the mood of Srimati Radhika, like this. And what happens? This memory manifests unparalleled, astonishing anubhavs in his form. His hair stand on, it's described, his hair stand up like kadamba trees, kadamba flowers. Now personally, I can't imagine, it doesn't even seem beautiful to me. But we can understand this is due to our ignorance, due to our lack of praying, due to our lack of the mercy, getting the mercy. But anyhow, this is extremely beautiful, because Mahaprabhu is extremely beautiful. And it says that the tears of prema are pouring, cascading out of his eyes like fountains. And they're bathing his body and bathing, of course, showering his surrounding associates who are all with him. And they're all remembering, and they're doing very quietly Harinam, Kirtan, like this. This is the morning pastimes. And then when it's about to end, then they go home to Mother Sachis into their own individual places. This is Mahaprabhu's Astakalya Leela, Nishant Leela, like this. Very deep, internal. Remembering, and they're remembering the Nishant Leela of Radha and Krishna. And songs, appropriate songs. If you, the kirtans, the padas of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we don't hear them so much because they're in Bengali, most of them, some in Sanskrit. They have beautiful, beautiful padas, songs for each time of the day that describe the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, like this. They're so beautiful. But so far, our Guru Parampara has not really presented that to us so much. When the time is right, these will come. They will come. Because we also don't want to get into the enjoying mood. Ras Kirtan, we have to be very careful, at least for me, at my stage, where I'm just trying to enjoy, like this. We want to be serving. We want to be following in the footsteps. And in Gaudiya Math, at this time, they were not singing these songs, but they are there. Amazing songs. So then and we already talked about Radha and Krishna's Nishant Leela. So now we're going to Prata Leela, which is from about 6 o'clock in the morning till maybe 8:30 in the morning. Because it depends on the sun and where the sun is and like this. But in the eternal spiritual world, The sun is always rising at the appropriate time and setting at the appropriate time. Time is a little different in the spiritual world. So in Prata Lila, when the sun is coming up, Mahaprabhu has been sleeping in his home, in Sachimata's home, and he wakes up, and there is someone there, might be Gadadhar Pandit, one of his associates there, and he wakes up, he freshens a little bit, brushes his teeth like this, and then he speaks with Lakshmi Priya, Vishnu Priya, Mother Yashoda, whatever is appropriate for their moods, right? And he comes out and speaks to his other devotees in the courtyard. According to their respective relations with him, he's speaking to them in the morning, like this, after he's freshened up. Then what happens? He goes with his intimate devotees to the Ganga. He goes to the Ganga, probably takes an oil massage, takes bath in the Ganga, comes out, and then they have their, what you would call a yoga peat meeting. He's sitting there and they worship him. And so, just like with Radha and Krishna, they get worship with incense, lamps, flowers like this at their yoga peat meeting in the morning also. And so he's worshipped there in some kunj on the bank of the Ganga, like this, by his associates. And it could be also they're worshiping Gaur Gadadhar, like on the banks of the Saraswati, the Jalangi, there in Swananda Sukara Kunj. There's Gaur Gadadhar being worshipped. And of course, for these devotees, who are non-different than the Brajbasis, really, they're worshipping Radha and Krishna, Radha Madhav, like this. But this is something that we hear about and we meditate on to some extent. But then what happens? Mahaprabhu goes to his mother's home and they have Harikatha, they do Artik and Tulsi Puja, Tulsi Artik. They take prasadam and he takes a little rest. This is his morning pastimes. Because within all of this, he's always remembering his pastimes as Krishna in the mood, and he's in the mood of Srimati Radhika. He's always, always remembering what is happening in Brajadam. Like this. Because this is why he has taken on this form. He wants to relish. And he's teaching us, he's guru, he's the original guru. He's teaching us that eventually, when our anarthas are annihilated, are removed, because until our anarthas are removed, we cannot even really expect, no, we can't expect praying, what to speak of even Ruchi and a Shakti like this. But we can still think about Radha and Krishna. So at this time of the day, in Vrindavan, Radha and Krishna have returned from the Kunja. They've gone their separate ways finally. You know, he goes to Nandagram, she's going to sometimes Barshana, sometimes Javat, like this, depending on what time of year. If it's like the time of year of Julan, then she's going to Barshana. Other times of year, she's going to Javat. But there's some really nice little, I thought I'd put a little jewels in here with this, sweet little pastimes that were revealed by Rupa Goswami in his Ukalika Valari and Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur in his Sankalpa Kalpadruma. So sometimes at this time, Krishna, when he's parting, what does he do? And one of the manjaris follows him. So what does he do? Of course, before going home, he goes to Chandravali's kunj, right? Kunj. And she's very upset. It's called Kandita. He's late. She's been waiting all night because he's been with Srimati Radhika, right? And she's really upset, like this. Of course, he's trying to appease her like this before he goes home. So the manjari, this can be our safest someday. She's hearing, seeing everything, and she's amused, of course, by the superiority, you might say, of Srimati Radhika. So she goes, everything she sees, she goes back to the assembly of gopis and tells them everything that happened. How Krishna's so, you might say, duplicitous, cheating, but how Srimati Radharani is actually superior, So then that's one little pastime. Very sweet pastime. Another time, Krishna himself has been late. He's actually been with Chandravali all night. And he comes late to Srimati Radhika. And he's really tired. His eyes are half closed, you know. And of course, she's in the Kandita state at this time. She's pretty upset. But he's very clever, right? So this is when that famous verse from Gita Govinda, Smara Garala Kandanam. How's the rest of it? Please extinguish the fire in my heart. I'm feeling so much pain, so much fire in my heart. Like this, please place the lotus of your feet on my head and extinguish this fire. So this verse is saying from Ukkalika Valari that Srimati Radhika, she does place finally her reddish lotus feet on his head. So what happens? This reddish hue comes in his hair, and his hair becomes reddish. And he's very beautiful. He's got half-closed eyes, and his hair is all reddish. And then he starts to leave the kunj and go home finally. And what happens? Chandravali Sakis are there watching, and they get really upset. They're looking at him because there he's coming out and his hair is out because they know what's happened like this. And the Manjari, Rupa Manjari is saying, when will my heart just swell with joy and pride when I see them so upset and looking at you crookedly with crooked eyes like this? And then I can see like this, very sweet. These are just little, you know, all the pastimes are unlimited, ever fresh. Ever fresh. They're never the same. But for us, we can just, because we're not so qualified, we can think of one path, you know, like this. And we can think of it over and over again till we become much more qualified. So then, when Krishna's gone to his home and he's taking rest, and Srimati Radhika has gone to her home and she's taking rest, then what happens? There's one little bit more nectar before we go on. Before Srimati Radhika wakes up, and we already talked about how Mukura comes and wakes her up, her grandmother. Before that, what happens? The Manjaris quickly, they bathe themselves, anoint themselves, and they refresh themselves. They don't take rest. They take bath very quickly. They help each other. They decorate each other, and they're decorating themselves with all the Mahaprasadi from Srimati Radhika, like this. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur expresses at this time, he has two verses in the beginning of his Krishna Bhavanamrita. At this time of day, he says, these Manjaris are equal to Sri Rupa, but she's their leader, but they're equal to her. And their qualities and their activities are all splendid and charming. Why? Because they've completely given up all separate and selfish interests. They're completely selfless. And even the shining of the tip of their toenail defeats the splendor of lightning. They're vidagda. Vidagda is hard to explain in English, but it means supremely clever, intelligent, in all ways how to assist Radha and Krishna in their loving affairs, like this in their pastime, vidagda. And they're actually qualified to be group leaders, like Lalita Vishaka. They're qualified like this, but they have no taste for that. They only have taste for serving the lotus, as it was. He explains it like this: diving into the ocean, nectarian sweet ocean of service to lotus feet of Srimati Radhika. That's their only interest. They have no other interest. This is beautiful. This is our destination. By the mercy of our Sri Guru, his who is like that. Our Guru has this. It's called, I don't know if I can say it right, Dasamritabdim. Abdim is like ocean. Rasamrita is a nectar, the sweet nectar ocean. Dasya is service to the lotus feet of Srimati Radhika. Dasamritabdim, the sweet, sweet, unlimited ocean of this service. So our gurus, this is what their hearts are. And so their hearts are these oceans. It's not that they're striving for it, like that's our aspiration. Our aspiration is this, but that's who they are. They're swimming in this unlimited nectarian ocean. And from their hearts, they can shower this mercy upon us and awaken our potential. We have the potential to also swim in this unlimited nectarian ocean of service to Srimati Radhika. And so we're very fortunate. We're in the Rupanuga Gaudiya Vaishnava line. But how are we going to get to this? How is this going to manifest? How? So that's why we've spoke about Madhurya Kadambini. We're speaking about Siksastakam, because we're in Pratalila, which is, for us who are sadhaks, that is, we're in sadhu sangha, bhajana kriya, anartha nivritti, hoping one day to come up to prem, which is this unlimited ocean of seva, like this. So in anartha nivritti, we talked a little bit about it last week. This week I wanted to go into it a little bit more, but before that, actually today is a very special day also, in the fact that it's the appearance day of one of Srila Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada's very dear disciples. His name is Sri Krishna Kesava Prabhu. It's interesting because I actually met him. I met him 2 times. He is very amazing. We'll talk about it, but I'll just explain first how I happened to meet him. It was in the early 90s when Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, before he started traveling the world, he would go to Puri. I've said this before, and he would write. He would do his writing in Puri because Mathura was very cold, rainy. So he'd go to Puri every winter. And he would write, stay at Mr. Singhania's guest house. He was one of his disciples. Huge, they were really rich. They had a huge guest house. I mean, like huge, right on the ocean. So a few times I got to go and stay there. They had some servants' quarters in the back. Huge garden, so we were in the back of the garden. And one time I stayed at the Nilachal Gaudiya Math too. Anyhow, the time I was at Mr. Singhania's house, we would observe that who would come to visit Srila Gurudev, Srila Narayan Maharaj? Krishna Kesava Prabhu with Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj. They would come together. Because Krishna Kesava Prabhu, after Saraswati Thakur left, he took shelter of Bhakti Daita Mata Maharaj, his godbrother. And he stayed with him, and he helped him in his service like this. So, of course, after Bhakti Daita Mata Maharaj also passed, he was very good friends with Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami. And they stayed there in the Mat, their Mat, where Bhakti Siddhanta appeared. I can never remember the name. What's the name of their Mat? Chaitanya Mat? I think it's called Chaitanya Mat. There in the Grand Trunk Road. So they would come from that Mat, and they would come to this huge guest house to see Gurudev. And Gurudev's rooms were up. You had to walk upstairs. It was huge. And they would be sitting downstairs very humbly, just waiting. So sometimes I would come in and they would be there. I had no clue who they were, because I was still in ISKCON at that time. I hadn't quite started to develop my understanding of the broader Gaudiya family. So, but I would pay my obeisances. I think I touched their feet too, probably. But they were just so humble. And they were, you could feel how spiritually potent they were. Then I never went to the room and heard the conversations. But then sometimes Srila Narayan Maharaj would go to the Chaitanya Mat to see them. And I did go with them sometimes. And if you know, I don't know what it's like now, I haven't been there in years, but in those days, before you saw the Thakurjis and you're coming off the main trunk road, there was kind of an alley, a long alley. And so he would be coming down this alley, and Krishna Kesava Prabhu or Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Maharaj would be standing, for some reason, they were maybe waiting for him, I don't know. He would pay his full dandabats before he even got to them. Full dandabats to them. So I could see there was a very intimate and respectful relationship. So that was my first introduction. I never really inquired much because I was still pretty in another mood. But later, much later, when we went to Puri, I was living at the Keshaviji Gaudiya Math by this time, I think, unless I was living here. One time, Srila Narayan Maharaj took most of us to Puri for Purushottam. I can't remember what year. I should have looked it up. And we went to visit the Chaitanya Math. I went with a couple of my godsisters. And Krishna Kesava Prabhu was there, but he was extremely sick. extremely sick, and there was 2 devotees taking care of him. And he spoke to us. Unfortunately, I do not remember what he said. We were all Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Prabhupada disciples. So I think he congratulated us and blessed us about distributing books and preaching. I really can't remember those so much. But he was very, very gracious and very, very beautiful, actually, and very energetic, even in his sick pastimes like this. So I was very fortunate to get his mercy. I didn't really realize at the time. Now I think I would be more attentive to the mercy that he was actually giving. And I didn't really realize, because he just had a very small room and just these 2 persons. But we hear from Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj from his book, My Beloved Masters, that Krishna Kesava Prabhu, even though he's a disciple of Bhakti Siddhanta, he had nothing. He had nothing. 2 sets of clothes, a few books, pen, nothing. He had one little trunk. And whatever money was given to him, he would use it to feed others. Yeah, he was count my money. Okay, now we'll invite all the pundits, we'll invite all the devotees, and we'll have a little feast. Very simple, very profound. There's a beautiful story, pastime with him, how he joined the Math. This is incredible. He was 11 years old. And he had come from his village, it doesn't say where, I don't think, from his village, wherever it was, with a group of devotees to do Prikrama of Navadvip. And he happened to meet Bhakti Siddhanta at that time, and he was so impressed. So at 11 years old, he decided, I'm not going back. I'm staying here. And at that time, Bhakti Siddhanta, seeing his determination, he actually gave him mantra and diksha. 11 years old, like this. But what happened? His father, back in the village, when he heard that his son wasn't coming home, he said, well, I'm going to go get him and bring him home. So his father was a sense enjoyer. He was smoking, I don't remember, he was drinking, and he was doing all kinds of eating things he shouldn't, doing all kinds of nonsense. But his father comes, and it's Navadvip Parikrama time. So there's thousands of pilgrims. But the devotees in the Math are so respectful to him, so kind to him. And in those days, they were only speaking about Krishna Katha, like this. And he was so amazed. He told his son, I didn't know a place like this existed. I had no clue any place like this exists. This is wonderful. I want to be like this. And then he met Saraswati Thakur. He wanted to take initiation immediately. And his son said, well, you're doing all kinds of things. You can't take initiation while you're doing these things, And not only that, you have to give up onion and garlic, too. Not just smoking and this and that and that and that. But you have to give up onion. And he said, from this day, I will do this. And so, are you sure, And he said, okay, his son said, Krishna Kesava said, okay, I'll try and get an appointment for you and see. Well, what happened? That very day, his father saw a group of devotees shaved up going to take initiation. So what did he do? He went and got shaved up, and he sat in line. No appointment, no nothing. And when Bhakti Siddhanta had him and heard like this, he said this determined and gave him Harinam. I don't know if he got Diksha then, can't remember. He had to go home because he has a family. Krishna Kesava was the youngest son of 10 in the family. I don't know if they were all boys, and he said, but I'm leaving my heart here. My body is going, and it so happens, I don't know if he ever got to come again, it doesn't say, but when he went home, he never did any of those activities again. He only chanted Hare Krishna, Kirtan, Sloka, everything, led a very pious Vaishnav life. Incredible change, and then when he passed away, Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj noticed something very amazing. Krishna Kesava Prabhu, they were on Vrindavan Parikrama, Vrajmandal Parikrama. And so Krishna Kesava, in honor of his father, his Vaishnava father passing, he bought some rubbery. It was 50 rupees worth of rubbery to feed all the devotees. Can you imagine in those days? Money was different. And so they bought rubbery and they served all the Vaishnavas. And Bhaktivedanta Bharati Maharaj says that usually the Matvasis were not very interested in these kind of things because the person that they were honoring was a sense enjoyer. But he noticed that at this particular festival, everyone very, very joyfully honored the Mahaprasadam because the man was actually, he had become a pure devotee. He'd got a high-class Vaishnava. Incredible story, huh? Incredible. This is the power of the pure devotee whose heart is filled with that ocean of mercy of Srimati Radhika and all of her Sakis, you know. Bhakti Siddhanta, Nayana Mani Manjari. And look at all of his followers. What exalted devotees they are, you know. So, I'll just tell a few passages of Krishna Kesava. Let's see if I can remember. I think I have the book here, so I got to remember. I don't remember so much. Let's see. Let's see here. Oh, this one's really nice. He was helping Bhaktisiddhanta's cook. He would cut up the vegetables, clean, and do everything. He didn't really cook, but every day he was doing this and watching very carefully. Then one time, Bhaktisiddhanta and even his cook, they went somewhere, maybe it was Bombay, somewhere for some time, and they were on their way back, and the cook started to become worried, well, how am I ever going to give Bhaktisiddhanta his Mahaprasadam on time? But when they arrived, Krishna Kesava Prabhu had everything prepared perfectly. In fact, Bhaktisiddhanta said he couldn't tell any difference between his cook's cooking, his original cook, and Krishna Kesava's cooking. So they asked him, how is this? Bhaktisiddhanta, who taught you how to cook? He said, no one. Well, how did you learn today? He said, I was watching everything. I was observing. So Bhaktisiddhanta said, you will be successful. Whatever you put your mind to, you will be successful. Like this. Very beautiful. And so one time Bhaktivedanta Bharati Goswami, I was cooking with him. I think it's in Ambika Kalna. And Krishna Kesava was, Bhaktivedanta Bharati Goswami Maharaj was cooking too. And he said, I couldn't remember if I'd put in the salt. So he asked Krishna Kesava. And this is beautiful. He said, well, okay, let's see. And by looking at the steam coming out of the preparations, you haven't put any salt. Amazing, huh? And he said, but if by chance you put too much salt in, you know what you do? You get a lump of dough and you throw it in and that will absorb the salt. Or if you put in too much turmeric, what was the one for that? Do you remember? Oh, gosh. He had another one for if you put in some leaves of certain leaves. I forgot what they were. You put those in, they'll absorb too much turmeric. He was so expert. Amazing, huh? And that's how we knew him. We were always told that he was, Bhaktisiddhanta is one of his cooks. That was for us, what he was kind of famous for. But there's another really beautiful story about him, how his humility and his love for his guru. He was a brahmachari. He never took sannyas. But he was encouraged to take sannyas. But his mood was, well, I've always been taught that your sannyas guru, your shiksha guru, all your gurus should be placed on the same level and given the same respect. But how can I place anyone on the same level as Bhaktisiddhanta? I cannot. My heart is for Bhaktisiddhanta. I cannot place anyone and give anyone there. So I cannot take sannyas because I would not be able to put my sannyas guru there. Not possible. What attachment, what deep love for his. So he always took the humble position. He told, when the Gaudiya Math was breaking up, and he was encouraging Bhakti Daita Madhav Goswami Maharaj before he was taking disciples, he said, the movement has to go on. It's very big now. And you're so qualified, you must take disciples. If you take disciples, I'll actually bring persons to you. I'll bring the souls to you, and you give the initiation, and I'll help maintain them, which is what he did. And in this book, My Beloved Masters, there's so many stories about his expertise in preaching. It's really quite astonishing, actually. There's one, what was he talking to some high class, maybe it was in Assam, I can't remember, I get the stories mixed up. Anyhow, he was talking to some very high class persons. And they weren't very impressed with the Gaudiya Math and this and that. And then Krishna Kesava said, okay, let me speak to them. And I think they were teachers or something. And he said, well, I don't know how you can think you're so great. I'm rephrasing it. And he said, because, and I think they were thinking why you don't follow some Mayavadi person that was there in there, something like this. And actually, I should look at it. It's such a good story. So then he finally said, how is it you're so intelligent? You've gone to England, to Oxford University, and you've mixed with all these low-class persons. He doesn't use specific words, I'm saying, like they're meat eaters and this. They don't even know how to clean themselves properly after they pass. They don't eat like this. And they were so shocked. They were so impressed, We're following, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas like this. Mahaprabhu. I think they were questioning Mahaprabhu. Can't remember. And they find, yes, we're so intelligent. We say something, but we never practice what we preach. Like this. And he very simple, but he touched their hearts like this. That was the way he was. His logic would just touch their hearts. There's another one, I don't think I can quite get it straight either, but he was on a train track at a train station, and a lot of his godbrothers were over here, and he was over here. And over here, these were the followers of one certain guru. I think he was the godbrother who became the new acharya. And so they asked, and he was over here, and he was with Bhaktivedanta Madhava Goswami Maharaj, but Bhaktivedanta Madhava Goswami Maharaj was not at the station. He was by himself. And they asked him, oh, Krishna Kesava Prabhu, how are you? And he said, I'm very well, thank you. How you can be well? You've left the institution of your guru. How you can be well? That's astonishing. And he looks at them and he says, well, if I'd stayed with you all, I'd just learned to be criticizers like you. I'm very well, because I'm with Bhaktivedanta Madhava Maharaj, and we're learning how to serve and be humble and honor everyone. He didn't mince his words. He was very straightforward. Like this. Very amazing. Very amazing. There's so many stories, I can't remember all of them. So, Krishna Kesava Prabhu Ki Jai. Okay, so Krishna Kesava Prabhu Ki Jai. So now we're going to go back to the tattva, to the teachings of Madhurya Kadambini, Siksastaka, and how is it that we can finally reach these exalted states that is our potential. This is our potential, so it's our aspiration. So how is it that we, in our fallen condition, can come from here to there? So, as we know, the next stage after Shraddha is Sadhu Sangha. And Sadhu Sangha is actually there at all stages. Sadhu Sangha is as Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur says, an expert doctor. He has a remedial process, right? How are you going to get better? He has a whole regime, how we're going to get better. So, and he gives a proper diet, he gives a proper medicine like this. So the proper regime that Mahaprabhu has given us to become free from our disease of ignorance. Everything coming from ignorance. Our envy, our lust, all the disqualifications for being able to actually attain prema. So the process is bhakti yoga. He's come and he's given bhakti yoga, right? And the medicine, what's the medicine? As we know, the medicine is to hear Harikatha. Hear Harikatha and to chant the holy name. And the diet is, this is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur speaking, sadhu sangha and to avoid offenses. This is the diet and the medicine. And especially, we should hear Srimad Bhagavatam, Amal Praman, the pure Purana. And we should hear especially the 10th canto. And especially, he's saying, because our goal is what? Our goal is this Dasamritabdim, the ocean of service of the lotus feet of Srimati Radhika. We're not going for anything. We're going for the topmost. So especially we should hear from the proper source the pastimes of Krishna with the Vraj Devis, like this. We should especially hear this with faith from the proper source over and over and over again, actually. Astonishing. And this, instead of creating more lust, it will actually purify us, because their pastimes are actually pure prem. But it has to be heard from the proper source of pure prem and with faith. Faith like this. And a sober person, sober, faithful person like this. But along with that, we have to hear what? All the instructions of our Sri Guru and the Vaishnavas. Along with that, how to properly hear with faith, how to properly hear soberly. So we also hear Bhagavad Gita, all the Srimad Bhagavatam, Prahlad, Ajamil, everyone like this. Because if we hear the entire Bhagavatam, right now I have a Nistagosi with some of my god sisters, and we're in 5th canto, we've come through. And wow, the purification by going through the whole Bhagavatam. I, of course, did it when I first joined with Srila Prabhupada, but that was, had a lot of thick ignorance there. So now there's a little bit less, so I could feel more and more of the purification. And I can see how it's really true, that if one very slowly, with the proper way, hearing properly, out loud, Srimad Bhagavatam, by the time we come to the 10th canto, by the time we come to the five Rasalila chapters, not to speak of the other Gitas, Venu Gita, and then the 5 chapters of Rasalila, then the Jugal Gita, then Brahmar Gita, all these, we will be more ready, and then we might have to do it again, but then we will be ready to actually understand and get the benefit, really, of hearing these pastimes in the proper mood. Because if we have the proper mood, we can even hear the topmost things like this, and no lust will come. No lust will come, lust will go. It will actually go. That's the famous verse for the end of the Rasalila. Vikrididam. I can't remember the whole thing, but Sukadev Goswami himself is saying, if one hears these pastimes of the gopis and Krishna soberly, then prem will come. This prem comes and everything else will go. Like this. So it's an astonishing process, actually. Astonishing. So we should hear. We should hear and we should chant like that. And then we'll become qualified, actually. We'll gradually, by chanting the holy name, the fruit, the main fruit of chanting is the awakening of our pure bhakti, the awakening ultimately of prem bhakti, ultimately of, for us, madhurya bhakti, braj bhakti rasasar. This is for us. But it's a gradual process, like this, gradual. But if we have faith, the main thing is we don't really have the faith. So we think, oh, I need to do this. I'm not saying everyone, but some persons think, oh, well, I've heard that if I go out to Radhakund and I meet so-and-so, he'll easily give me my Siddha Deha, he'll tell me all these wonderful things, and this is too slow. I'm just chanting like this. It's just too slow. I'm getting bored with this. But no, if we hear properly the holy name from Sri Guru and we follow his instructions and we very sincerely chanting every day and serving with our life and soul, Sri Guru, he's that ocean of this nectar. And he will pour his mercy on it and he will awaken that naturally within us. This is Bhaktisiddhanta's teaching. If you go on chanting under proper guidance, like this, never giving up. Even mundane thoughts come, so many things. He says, don't worry. That's a secondary result of chanting. These things will naturally go. Don't worry about it. Just keep chanting and keep hearing. But we should also hear not just the tattva. We should also hear, even Prabhupada. When I first joined, Prabhupada had us, of course, we had Bhagavatam class every day. We had Bhagavad Gita class at night, Bhagavatam in the morning. But after Bhagavad Gita class at night, he wanted us to have some nectar. So we were either reading Krishna book or nectar of devotion, like this. He said, you can't just have tattva. We need some nectar. We need to hear these things. How else are we going to have any desire if we don't hear, like this? And finally, we become qualified to really relish the sweetnesses of Krishna. The sweetnesses all of his form, of his associates, of his pastimes. We heard about that in Madhurya Kadambini, the chapter of praying. What actually happens when we become qualified? The astonishing first time of having darshan of Krishna. So the devotee becomes completely overwhelmed, with the sweetness of his sounds, his speaking, his flute, the sweetness of his fragrance, the sweetness of his form, like this. So gradually, first we start where we're at. Like I know myself, when I first joined, I was in the LA temple. We have Radha and Krishna. They had Gaur Nitai, they had Jagannath, Balaram, Subhadra. And I remember that I'd never seen anything so beautiful. Isn't it? Thakurji. This is the mercy incarnation. We have the holy name has come, but because we're so impersonals, we're such sense gratifiers, that we need Thakurji. We need this. Prabhupada said, or else we'll never become personalists. We need the personal form. So Krishna so mercifully has come in his Thakurji form for us, Archamurti. We're so, I would just sit there and chant and just, wow. I didn't know any pastimes, but the Thakurji is so beautiful. You just wanted to sit there all day long because as soon as you left Thakurji, things were so beautiful. The mind's full of all this and everyone's doing this and that. And then, I was in Los Angeles. You go outside and there's all the Los Angeles, whatever it is, Maya, But with Thakurji, it was so peaceful, so beautiful, so clean, like this. So at our set, we need to chant in front of Thakurji, have pictures. He said these are doorways to the spiritual world, these pictures. So we can be attracted to the sweetness of Krishna at our level. We need to read some. Like this. Of course, as we heard from Srila Gurudev, if lust comes, though, you shut the book, you put it down, or you leave, whatever it is. If lust comes, then you change. You go to Bhagavad Gita, whatever it is, like this. So, the anarthas that we're dealing with, we have to understand, are coming from ignorance. And who destroys this ignorance? Sri Guru, Om Jnana Timirandasya, right? Om Jnana. He destroys the ignorance by his kata. Even by his glancing at us, even by his just thinking of us. Like this. So what is the ignorance that we've been born into? We know Bhagavad Gita says lust and envy. Well, we also hear that it's called klesh. Klesh are anarthas, those things that we don't want. These kleshas come from this ignorance, right? Avidya. So we spoke about it a little bit yesterday, but we didn't speak in depth. So I wanted to go back. We spoke about this in the Madhurya Kadambini. So there's different categories. So there's 5, and one category is the 5 kleshas, the material miseries, because we're in kleshagni, the removal of misery and the awakening of auspiciousness, subhada, right? So the kleshas that are coming, of course, is avidya. This is where everything's coming from, and that is what? We're identifying with the body. We come immediately. We come and we start saying, "I'm not this body. I am this body. Oh, I am this body. I'm not the spirit. I'm the material body." This is a root cause of all our problems. And why does this happen? Because of that envy of Krishna. This is what that avidya. When the spirit soul, the Tatastha Shakti, comes to the material world, why does he come? He wants to be the enjoyer. He wants to be Krishna. So Yogamaya makes a place for him where he can pretend to be Krishna. And he can get so purified, because it never works. Because we're not Krishna, right? So we get, we get so beat up by Maya, isn't it? We get so that finally we'll come around and want to get out, right? But it's because of this desire, this ignorance. Okay, I can be Krishna. I can be the enjoyer. I can control everything like this. Oh, I can pretend like I'm the friend of all. Yes, no, I am the friend. I am. Everything should be for my enjoyment. Oh, finally. So this is, and what is in the midst of all that? The real problem of the ignorance. What does it produce? Pratista, which is wanting to be number one, wanting to be Krishna. Here it's all, it's all together, right? And pratista is called, what is the outcast? Yeah, the outcast prostitute. I'm going to read you something from Srila Gurudev. It's really beautiful, actually. So you have pratista. Yeah. The outcast, dog-eating. Oh, that's envy. Yes, pratista is the prostitute. Okay, so you've got this. You've got the pratista, and from that comes this envy, matsarya, right? And Gurudev is so amazing what he says. He says, when this desire for pratista actually finds a place in our heart, so that's in the very beginning. In the very beginning, this pratista, this ignorance, the desire to be Krishna, what happens? This pratista and the pratista's most beloved companion, the beloved of pratista is envy, matsarya, takes shelter of our hearts. So this is a lust and envy. You see, lust and envy, they're together. It says, now, then what happens? Because they both have a reciprocal conjugal mood, they cohabitate. And they produce offspring. So envy impregnates the witch of desire recognition. And what do they get? 2 twins. Violence, himsa, and jealousy, irsha. This is what's going on in our hearts from time immemorial. Isn't that nice? They're together, these beloveds. Yes, pratista and matsarya, and then we're getting himsa, violence, and jealousy. Whoa, are we in trouble? So, and then he says, their combined devastating dance together in our hearts, what does it do? It destroys all good tendencies in the heart. Everything, all of our good tendencies are just completely destroyed, and there's no room for even the desire for bhakti. What to speak of bhakti? There's not even the room for desire. So the heart becomes completely impure. So then he said, so what? He says, therefore, the sadhak should not desire honor at all. Pratista, no honor, but instead should offer all respects to others. So it's manina, amanina, manana. That's trinadapi sunichena. We have to take shelter of this. And carefully, and he says, thus carefully abandoning the desire for honor forever. forever. That's the next stage. We're just trying to come to that stage. So right now we have to understand what a precarious position we're in. We're in because we're down here, and we've got these two, beloveds doing their dance in our heart. You see what I mean? Creating all this disqualification, all this devastation in our heart, all of our potential. So as we heard, the medicine and the diet, sadhu sangha. We have to stay in sadhu sangha and make the words coming from the sadhu our life and soul, 24 hours a day. Now we think, now for myself. Now the problem is I have to sleep. I have not come to the stage where I cannot sleep. So that's 8 hours a day, 6 hours, however many hours that we sleep. So how is it that I can be making the instructions of my guru, my life and soul, during the time when I'm sleeping? Well, if we take it like this, it says in the Bhagavad Gita, we shouldn't sleep too much or too little, eat too much or sleep too little. And what's the other one?
Recreation.
Oh yeah, recreation. Recreation too much or too little. So, at this point, we're following the instructions of who? Krishna himself, Bhagavad Gita, spoken by Krishna himself. First guru, he's saying you shouldn't sleep too much and sleep too little. So we have to sleep. We're making the instructions of our guru, our life and soul. But we do the sleep as a service so that we can do our bhajan and our seva the next day, right? And with that mood, before we take rest, we pray for this, we try and keep in that consciousness, and we try and wake up timely. We don't try and take too much, more than we actually need, like this. And what does that mean? Then we shouldn't eat too much, because usually if one eats too much, then one has to sleep more, like this. So we have to be careful with our eating and sleeping, right? But sleeping and eating, for us, actually honoring Mahaprasadam and sleeping seva, we should see everything as seva. Everything in our life should be Guru Seva. I'm taking rest for my Guru so I can carry out his instructions and his service the next day. I'm honoring Prasadam so my body will be fit, and so also I'll get purified because it's Mahaprasadam, so I can do my Guru Seva. Like this. So 24 hours a day, we should be sadhu sangha. The minute we get up, we've talked about this before, Jai Shri Shri Guru, the whole, Jayadwani prayer. So we're associating all day long. We're thinking of the Vaishnavas, their teachings, and whatever seva that our Guru has given us at whatever time. When I first joined, what was I doing? When I first joined, I was making garlands and we were, I was helping to roll chapatis for 300 people, 300 devotees, and doing the laundry at the laundromat for 35 brahmacharinis, and you're going out in the afternoon and Harinam Sankirtan distributing little pamphlets, like this. Hearing Harikatha. Prabhupada was there in L.A. usually about 3 months. He would stay, because he would translate. It was his Western World headquarters. It was his BBT, He would come 2 or 3 times a year. And he would say, so I got to hear a lot of Harikatha from Srila Prabhupada, Srimad Bhagavatam, prayers of Queen Kunti, and so many, beautiful. But we have to hear. And if the pure devotee is not there, we still hear because he's given the system. He's empowering the system. We had to go to Bhagavatam class every day. And he was empowering his disciples to speak like this. But he also told us that we should chant a chapter of Bhagavatam every day ourselves, which I actually did. I did that for years, the Sanskrit and then read the English. So in this way, we're getting that Harikatha. So, okay, so then we're moving on. We've got this dance going on down here. So we're trying to take the medicine of sadhu sangha, which avoiding offenses, which we've talked about. And really offense means that which takes us away from affection to Krishna. Aparad. What's acting against what Srimati Radharani would want, really. She's praying Guru, she's watching. You do something, that I'm not going to like, something that isn't favorable to Krishna. It's not going to bring him happiness. No, this is aparad. So that depends on how we act with others, even those who are not devotees. We know that. There's jiva aparad too. To any jiva, they're spirit souls. They are in the family of Krishna. We have no right to do this ahimsa, which is one of the twins that got born from the togetherness of Matsarya and Pratista. We have no right to commit violence, even verbally. Even mentally, we shouldn't be committing violence to any living entity. What to speak of Guru and Vaishnava and Dham, like this, Nam, and what to speak of Bhakti itself. Thakurji, Seva Aparads. So this takes time. And real aparad, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj explains, because sometimes we think, oh, this is offense, that's offense, this is offense, you're so offensive. But actually, he said, one time someone came to him and said, oh, this person isn't showing me proper respect, and this is so offensive. And Gurudev said, no, that's not offensive. He's just ignorant. Offense is when you have a cruel, malicious heart. And you're doing things really knowingly. You know better and you do it. And you're really trying to hurt that person, really. That's offense. This is the thing. So we want to get rid of this cruelty and hatred in our heart, like that. So from this avidya, the real ignorance means mistaking that which is impermanent to be permanent, that which is full of misery to be blissful. How silly, aren't we? We're so silly. That which is impure to be pure, and what is not the self to be the self. That's real ignorance, isn't it? Truth is bhakti. You see, truth, the four internal, intrinsic characteristics of bhakti, one of them is truth. So, of course, avidya is not bhakti. Bhakti means truth, the self. We understand who the self is. We know what is really pure. We know what is really blissful. We know what is permanent, the spirit. Like this. So from that comes false ego. I and mine. I and mine. And with the false ego, you accept what is direct perception as real. But actually, this direct perception that we have with this false material body, it's not who, that perception that we're having is an illusion. This whole material world's a dream. It's an illusory world, temporary world, like this. So this false ego, I am the body, these belong to me, she belongs to me. This sense perception, that is meant for my enjoyment. I'm seeing this, hearing it like this. False ego. And from that comes raga. One was avidya, asmita, now raga, attachment. So then you become attached. I am this. This belongs to me. I'm seeing, like this. Attachment. You want to get unlimited happiness, material happiness. And you want to decrease all your suffering, right? Because I'm Krishna. I should be the supreme enjoyer. Then what happens? Dvesha. That's hatred, envy, and jealousy. Because you don't want to be unhappy. You don't want to have any cause for misery. But the problem is, you're relating to, you're thinking you're something you're not. You're thinking those belong to you. And your wife runs off with the man next door. And you're suffering like anything. And you're very jealous and envious. Like this. This is just a simple, very obvious example. This is dvesh. This comes from all this ignorance, from all this, misidentification. Then comes abhinivesh, clinging to the body. You don't just think you're the body and everything. You're clinging. So why? Because you're afraid of death. And it's all going to be over when we die. And we all have this to some extent until we get purified. How many of us are completely fearless like Prahlad? And this is just, well, which canto is that? That eighth? Seventh canto, right, seventh canto. Prahlad, no fear. Why? He was completely absorbed in Sri Nam. Complete faith. He was thrown off a cliff. He was thrown in a pit of snakes. They were trying to kill him in so many ways. He was just chanting Hare Krishna, happy. No envy to his father who was trying to do it. They tried to have him drink poison. All these things. He was happily chanting Hare Krishna. So what to speak of coming to the level of the gopis? What about coming to the level of Prahlad Maharaj? Like this. Because I was told, we hear that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he read that 108 times. 108 times the story of Prahlad, studying. And we should take shelter of this story of Prahlad and all of his teachings. Like this. This is 7th canto Bhagavad, before we can, like this. This chanting is the medicine in sadhu sangha, hearing the Harikatha, remembering like this. If we can just pray to become absorbed in our chanting and pray to have that unbreakable faith like this, we don't need anything else. The sadhu sangha is always there. Our guru is always with us. Never gone. They may have entered Nitya Leela. They are here with us. They're like Krishna. Krishna's super soul in the heart. But he's also, for one who's a pure devotee, he's here. He sees Krishna everywhere. So Guru also. So we have to gradually, chanting and chanting, clear the mind. This is our sadhana, what do you call it? The unfavorable thoughts come. Oh, my guru's gone. I have nobody. I'm lonely. I'm alone. Oh, these people are doing this to me. They're doing that. Oh, no. Wait a minute. My guru's right here. My guru's here. It doesn't matter. I deserve everything I get. It's my past activities coming. I'm getting just a token of what I deserve. And my Gurudev loves me. And he's an ocean of auspiciousness. I just need to serve him. What did he tell me to do? He told me to chant Hare Krishna. He told me to write books. He told me to go out and preach. He told me to cook for Thakurji. Whatever it is, right? And we become happily absorbed in Guru Seva. Then nothing can touch us. Nothing. But we have to control the mind. We have to do something as two fingers. Yeah, Yashoda and Krishna, right? She had to try so hard. She had to run and run and run. And then she had to tie it. Finally, Krishna says, okay, I'll allow you to tie me up. So we have to try. We have to keep, this is our sadhana, kicking out the unfavorable thoughts. Because really nothing else is the problem. The problem is our mad minds. More difficult to control than the raging wind and full of all kinds of garbage. All kinds of negativity from unlimited pastimes, especially coming from the original ignorance of, I'm Krishna, I'm this, everything, and the desire for pratista, the envy, blah, 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 blah. So many things. So we have to work hard at chanting. And this thought comes up. And Krishna and Maya knows what will get us, isn't it? And all of a sudden you'll realize, wow, it's been 3 hours that I've been thinking about that silly whatever it was. Oh, so-and-so was mean to me 5 years ago and she's still, oh, whoa. And I don't want to see her ugly face. And, and 5 hours were just, we're trying, we just, isn't it? Sad. We're missing out. We are keeping ourselves from the nectar, isn't it? So we should just become absorbed in the holy name, kicking out all these things and trying to remember while we're chanting at least the tattva, the lila, whatever is appropriate. And that's why for the times of the day, like in Nishant Lila, we can remember something simple, not intimate pastimes, for the next time of the day, for the next time. Siksastakam there. And in Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given us the blueprint, actually, in his Bhajan Rahasya. In his Bhajan Rahasya, he gives us the tattva, and he gives us a lila for each time of the day. In the nutshell verse of Srila Rupa Goswami and Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Okay, I think we should stop here.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What is the difference between enviousness and jealousy?
Well, I was wondering myself. Let's see if we can. Anyone have an answer for the difference between envy and jealousy?
Because it seems to be the same, but it must be different.
I know. One is irsha and one is matsarya. Anyone know Sanskrit? Matsarya is envy, and jealousy is irsha. Irsha. I-R-S-Y-A. Irsha. Something like that. Maybe we can try and find out for next time. I was wondering that myself. What is the difference between... Do you have an idea?
But it's not something I read from Guru Bhargava.
Well, you can just say what you feel. We can think about it.
Like Irsha is like, actually Matsarya is a big thing, you know. Matsarya is like you cannot tolerate, because you say there is the couple of pratistas. So pratista, you want to be the one is worshipped. So you cannot tolerate their worship from someone else. So in Matsarya, you cannot tolerate anything related to anyone. And then comes this jealousy, then like, okay, this person is doing something
yes,
specific.
more
That's
specific.
Like she's singing very beautiful. Oh my God, this jealousy, because why she's singing beautifully, you know? Like what's like I think it's because, that's why he's saying it's like the daughter, son, whatever, of these two, you know?
I was kind of thinking like, I think it's more specific, Irsha, jealousy, and a little bit more...
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Like, for example, a person becomes jealous about like another person. It's just more like in a specific like.
She's so handsome.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not very handsome. She's so beautiful. I'm not very beautiful.
Or very learned, or very like.
Yeah.
And then is a constant state of mind. Like maybe it's for everybody, not for a particular thing. Okay.
Yeah.
It's
It's just envy in general. Envious. It really means envious of Krishna.
Right.
Krishna's the enjoyer. Everything's meant for him, and
Matsari actually means matza is like a fish, you know. Actually, like always, they give the example. They use this word because the big fish, when he will see the small, he will always eat it, because he's afraid that this small, even when he's small, he's afraid that when he will grow up, then he will be a problem. So better I just eat it now that he's small, and then it's not a big problem. So this is matsarya.
yeah.
This makes sense.
Can't, yeah. I'm number one. And everyone should see that I'm number one.
Yes.
Okay. Vanchakalpajubhischa kripa sindhu vyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare
Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
I thought of something I want to say, because it just came and I don't want to lose it. You can see how this answer, the answer to this big problem of this devastating dance going on in our heart and our minds, is what Gurudev was saying, that the answer is honoring others. And that's what's going to come in the next stage, which is Nishta, which is Trinadapi Sunichena. Because when you honor others, what are you doing? You're not honoring their conditioning. It's not because, oh, you're Italian, or you're a lady, or you're a man, or you're intelligent. You're honoring because they're a spirit soul. So you've cut the ignorance. The ignorance is gone of the body. You see, you're a spirit soul. So you've cut the ignorance. You're a beloved of Krishna, like this. You see what I mean? And you don't want any respect for yourself. So it just cuts. This is the answer. Honoring others properly as a spirit soul. Then you can go on easily from that. And it's such a simple answer. I know Srila Gurudev would say, because in institutions there's always a lot of fighting, whether it's material or spiritual, right? And he said in his institution, one reason why it stayed together so long was because he said, I showed respect to everyone. Everyone, I always showed respect. To someone, I would bring them back, show them respect. In Harikatha, you speak the truth, but in your dealings, always respectful. No matter if the person's against you, this not, he's in another sampradaya, whatever. They're spirit souls, and we respect them. And we treat them as beloved of Krishna. Okay, Haribol.
Jaya Gandharvika Giridhari Gandharvika Giridhari Radhe.
Jaya Gandharvika Giridhari Gandharvika Giridhari Radhe.
Jaya Radhika Raman, Jaya Radhika Raman, Jaya Radhika Raman, Jaya Radhika Raman.
Jaya Radhika Raman, Jaya Radhika Raman. Radhika Raman, Jaya Radhika Raman.
Jaya Giri Raja, Jaya Govardhana. Giri Raja, Jaya Govardhana.
Jaya Giri Raja, Jaya Govardhana. Giri Raja, Jaya Govardhana. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jai Shri Shri Guru Garanga Gandharvika Giri Jai Radhika Raman Radha Damodar Giri Ju Ki Jai.